Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and oh man, do we have a really great show for you. I'm just telling you what, boys. Folks, you just got to know something here. There are books, and I read every book for every show. Right before I do the show, I read, I take notes, and but this one from Boss to Boss by Zondra Wimberly, and I'm going to call her friend because I think we have kindred spirits, and I know we do. But I'm going to tell you something. If you are out there today and you ever been on the weekend enjoying Friday night, Saturday all day, halfway through Sunday, and you wake and you start to realize that you got to go work on Monday and you hate it, this book's for you. If you're in the middle of trying to figure out what you're going to do in your career, this book is for you. If you feel like you're too old and you can't make a career change, this book is for you. This book is for anybody who's ever questioned what their real purpose is in their life and their work. This book is for you. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor here, please. All right. Now, listen, if you're listening to us podcast, I can't expect you to take out a piece of paper and take notes. Okay. But I want you to go back and re-listen to this show and take notes on the things that Zondra Wimberly is going to say to you today, because they're this important. They are life-changing, they are career-changing, and they will change your direction and your purpose. I promise you they will. She has a beautiful soul, she has a beautiful heart, and she has something to say, and it's practical, it's applicable, and it applies to you. I promise it does. And so we're going to speak to her in just a minute. Before we do that, we do every week, right? We are 4-part people. We are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people. And on this show, we do this every week. If you've not joined us or watched us on DBTV, and thanks for watching and listening. And what we do is we have you evaluate yourself in these 4 areas: physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Scale of 1 to 10. 1 being it's not good at all, and 10 being it's outstanding, 5 being average. And whatever your number is that you decide that you are, right? Whatever that is, I don't want you to worry about that number. What I want you to do is I want you to see it as a starting place for where you can improve, because that's what this is about. So let's take, for example, the physical area, right? So if you were to evaluate yourself and getting enough exercise, eating right, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, what number would you give yourself physically, right? So if you're a 2, what we're trying to do is go, well, let's just try to get to 2.5. What could I change right now to get to 2.5? If you're at 8, what can you get to an 8.25, right? Just get a little better, right? Here's the thing that we know in all these areas. If you're not growing, we're never static, we're dying, right? So we want to be improving every day of our life, all right? So physical, that's your first number. Second number is the mental number, mental, intellectual, right? You cannot sit on the couch, be a couch potato, and hope things come at you and somehow you're going to magically absorb things and you're going to grow in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's not going to happen. You have to be an active participant in your mental, intellectual growth. What are you doing to grow yourself in knowledge and understanding? No less than, I think, 4 times in this book, Zondra makes a point, says, do your research, do your research, do your research, do your research, do your homework, learn everything you can, take advantage of all the learning that you have available to. There's so many ways to do that. You have to be an active participant. Mm-hmm. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, how well would you say that you're doing in your learning, your growth, and in knowledge, understanding? Right? Scale of 1 to 10, right? That's your second number. Mm-hmm. Third number is your emotional self, right? And I break this down into 2 very simple ways. 1, how well are you able to control your emotions under stress and pressure and tension? And then the second part of it is, how well are you able to tap into and understand the emotions of other people? Now, listen, the first part of it is this. The first part of it is emotional control. Right. And the truth of the matter is you can control your emotions. Right. I say this, I've said this to my psychology classes, kick me in the shins. I have a variety of responses I can make if I choose to. But the second part can be harder because we may not have the vocabulary, emotional vocabulary, to be able to understand the emotions of other people and truly step into their world and listen. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you evaluate yourself emotionally? And then finally, the spiritual area. And listen, we're all spiritual beings, right? We're spiritual beings living in a physical body. That's really the truth. And the truth of the matter is we all live by faith. You took a sip of your cup of coffee this morning, believed it wasn't poisonous. You put your key in the car and turned it on, believing it would start up. You saw the walk sign on the crosswalk and you believed that the cars weren't going to hit you. We all live by faith every day. Right. And then here's the other thing. What brings you back to centeredness and peace in the midst of chaos? What brings you joy in the midst of chaos? That is a spiritual practice. Is it God? Is it nature? Is it meditation? Is it something else? And then the question you have to ask yourself, is it working for you? So on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your spiritual number? Now, those 4 numbers, they're like the air in the tires of your car. All right. If one of those areas is low, what happens? The car veers, right? One way or another. And over time, you're going to make a mess of the car. And at the same token, if all 4 tires are too low, what happens? You're going to ruin the car. Right? So we want to bring our tires to the right height. And speaking of someone who does that, her name is Zandra Wimberly. She is a professional development expert, author, speaker, career transition coach. She helps women transition from an unfulfilling job to purpose. Zandra has over 20 years of experience training individuals in the areas of business development and entrepreneurialism, workplace etiquette, customer service, and career transition. She is a Detroit native. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in communications from the University of Michigan. Go Wolverines, and a Master's of Art degree from Public Administration from Wayne State University. She's a wife and a mother of 5. You can connect with her by going to ZandraWimberly.com, and she's also on social media all over. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, and welcome to A New Direction for the first time, Zandra Wimberly. Zandra, welcome to A New Direction.
Thank you so much, Coach Jay. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so pleased to be here today.
Well, I am excited to have you on here. So I think we should begin by telling the beginning of that day you had the wake up call with family and friends, and let people know that story, because I think they're going to relate to your story too. So tell them that story, that all of a sudden this all changed.
So it was my birthday weekend, and I was having an absolute fabulous weekend, enjoying time with my family, my friends. I've got a bunch of children, and they're all quite animated. So we have great celebrations at my house. You just never know what the youngest one is going to say to the oldest one. And, if you've got kids, they always know more than you do. So then there's lively debates and spirited conversations. And, we're old in the olden days, which really isn't that old or far back. So, and I'm often challenging them and saying things like, may you have a daughter that's just like you. So this is the kind of weekend I had. My husband had cooked a meal for me, and we just had a wonderful weekend celebrating me and my life and my becoming 1 year older. And I remember vividly that it was on a Sunday. And so as the day began to wind down, as you do, most of us do, you begin to plan for the next day. And I thought to myself, my God, I've got to go into this job tomorrow. I've got to go into this place that is unlike the space that I'm in now. It's not a place of peace. It's not a place of comfort. It's not a safe space to have lively debates. It is a place of tension. It is a place of not so nice people who are surviving like I was, not thriving, but surviving, and who just come to this place because we have to earn a living, because we need a paycheck, and an environment that was not necessarily supported by leadership, because they chose to allow some of the things that happened in the place to continue to happen. And there's just something just hit me in the pit of my stomach. It was almost like a wave of depression, if I could use it like that. And I didn't say this in the book because I'm not clinically depressed, but it was like, if you've ever been overcome with a wave of sorrow or a wave of, oh my God, dread.
Yeah.
And it immediately led me to feel salty and to, and bitter. and so my emotions just turned from having a fabulous time to saying, my God, I have got to get up and go to this place again. And so what would happen is every morning When it was time to get up, I'd just lay there. It wasn't because I was extra tired or I didn't get enough rest, but it was because, my God, I did not want to take the next step,
Right.
moving towards going into this place of employment that I didn't enjoy. I
Right.
mean, Coach Jay, I just didn't enjoy it. Now,
Yeah.
that didn't mean that I wasn't proficient at it, that I
Right.
wasn't good at it. It didn't mean that I had poor performance
Right.
evaluations, because I was able to do it. We're multifaceted, many of us. We can do multiple things. I mean, I'm good at organizing, I'm good at directing, my family will say. There are many things that I can do and actually do them proficiently. But it was not something that was fulfilling. It wasn't fulfilling to my spirit. It didn't take me to a place of believing that I was doing what God had me here on this earth to do. It's like there's got to be more to it than this. And somehow I have missed it
Yeah.
because this is not it.
Yeah. You know, I think, you and I coach a lot of people. We both talk about purpose and we coach people in careers and this type of thing. I find it more and more common in today's society
Mhm.
that people are waking up. This is actually the name of your first chapter. Right? They wake up and they go, "Here I am, and I don't. This isn't what I want to be doing with my life."
Mhm.
Do you find that pretty true? I feel like it's more frequent now than it ever has been. Do you find that also true?
Oh gosh, it is true. And for people that are in my generation, I'm in my 50s. Now, we were taught, you grow up, you go to college if you can, and you
Mhm.
get a job. And it's about a job, and you get the job that's going to pay the money and that's going to have the benefits. And the thought was, umpteen years ago, is that you'd stay in that job for 30 years and you retire with a pension, right? And then you go on and have paid for a home and, and live this middle class dream. Well, things have changed. Things
Yeah,
have changed because that doesn't always happen anymore. As a matter of fact, it's more often than not that you're not going to stay in the same job for 30 years, right?
right.
And just survive it.
Yeah,
And so you're no one was just putting into us those years ago, well, what is it that you really want to do? What is it? What is that thing that you're good at? I mean, if it's painting flowers,
mhm,
nobody said, your parents would say you're crazy. I want to paint flowers or something like that. Nobody said, well, you could have this wonderful business, this flower painting business, and
right.
be happy and still be able to thrive and perhaps also take care of your family doing it. Those weren't the kinds of dreams that were put into our heads. It was like, get the job that's going to pay the money and pay the bills and help you provide for a family and live a decent life here in this country.
Well, it's interesting. I was teaching a college and career course, and I had to design it, and I had a speaker come in who helped people find uh, jobs, careers, and he made a really big delineation. He said, "You want to find a career. You don't want to find a job because a job is an acronym for just over broke." And
Oh.
and I remember him saying that not because it's not that you can't make money, it's just that you never feel whole. And so
Mhm.
you're just over being broken. You're just past being broken. And I've always taken that to heart because oftentimes we take a job,
Mhm.
but we don't find a career. And I think this is the thing
Right.
that you do so well in this book is I mean, the title is From Boss to Boss, and you're trying to help us find a purpose in a career.
Right.
And I want to go uh, into this first chapter because one of the things that I want to talk about with you is you had another incident when you were 10 years old,
Yes.
and a family member had said something to you because you had certain dreams. So tell people what the dream was, and then tell people that dreadful moment that somebody spoke certain words to you and how that affected you.
Sure. So Coach Jay, I've been a dreamer all of my life. I mean, we all have gifts and there's certain things and there are certain quirks about us, but I've always been one to dream. From a small child, I'd have these very imaginative dreams and I'd wake up and I'd tell my mother about them, oh mom, I dreamt about this or I dreamt about that. And oftentimes they would be dreams about me and things that I foresaw and wanted in my life. Now, as a kid, I didn't understand, other than, wow, I had this dream and it sounds great to me. And so one of the things that I had dreamt about and desired and just wanted from early on was to be a person who could read the news over the air. I remember vividly when I first learned how to read. I can remember putting together the words and changing the word, and the word was at. That AT word. And I realized, because I knew phonetic sounds, that if I put the M sound and sounded it out, it was Matt. And then if I took the S, it was sat. And if I took the P, it was pat. And I can remember this like yesterday. Oh my God, it was like, I can read. And so that just opened up, and I was young, like under kindergarten, and was able to read these words because my dad would read to me, my mom would read to me, and I was surrounded with books. And so from that point on, I would read everything I could. I'd hold it up, and read it. And I was fascinated with the news. Absolutely fascinated with the news and with documentaries. And I would sit and watch this as a kid and just love to see these women, because I saw women. Actually, I'm from Detroit, so I saw women that actually looked like me that would read the news in the evening. And I thought, that's what I want to do. And I want to tell these stories that they tell, which really was like reporting. I want to do this.
Right.
And so, I remember riding in, and this was my dream because I had not only seen it, I wanted it, I would dream about it. So I remember riding in a car. I believe we were riding in a car with a family member, and I just was talking about that, and I said, I think I said something like, I want to be an airline stewardess or a news anchor. And I just, just the news anchor was really what I wanted to be. And I said that to this person, and he said back to me, he said, well, I don't know about that. You may want to think differently about that. Whatever those words were that he put together. And he said, because, the people that are on the TV, they're thinner than you. And what he was alluding to is, because I was a little chunky thing, was that they didn't hire people to anchor the news who were fat. That's really what he was saying. He didn't say it that way, but he, hey, that's what he was saying. Like, you're a fat girl and you can't do that. You may want to do something else. And he didn't put it like that, but that's the way I heard it. Right. That's the way it went into my spirit. And I said to myself, wow. And I thought about it and I pondered it. And I looked, and he was right. These women that were on TV were thin. They were thin women. And I mean, back then, we're talking, decades ago, you could not have a weight problem. You had to be perfect and to be an airline stewardess. So look, I'm talking about two things. Right. We had to be super thin, beautiful, and well coiffed, because they didn't allow it. Now, we know things have changed now, right. But he actually wasn't telling me something that wasn't true. But he should not have said that. But I internalized that, and I just gave up. I tucked it away, and I gave up on that thing that I really believed that I was supposed to do, Coach Jay.
And this goes to the power of our words.
Yes.
Doesn't it? And how careful we need to be. Speak to the power of words, and how we need to not only speak to others, but speak to ourselves.
So I believe, because I, can give testimony after testimony about speaking and words to power. What you believe generally is what you will speak. And what you speak and you put out into the atmosphere, into the world, can absolutely become real, whether it's for the good or for the negative. So if you believe and you're constantly speaking, so had I, and this would have changed my life differently, had I said, oh, there could be a way for me to do that. There could be a way for that to happen. Or, well, maybe they are, but there could be a way, because there could have been a way. I mean, there could have been, first of all, who's to say I was going to grow up and be overweight or heavy set as an adult, because I was only 10 then.
Right.
Who's to say that? Who's to say the industry wouldn't change? Who's to
Right.
say that? So, but speaking positivity on that could have changed everything. But yes, when you speak um, life into something, then it lives. If you speak death on something, then it dies. And I could tell you over and over again about people that I know, and I
Yeah.
illustrate vividly in this book about this woman that I worked with. And I became very cognizant of this early in my life, because I was in my early 20s when I worked with a person who just constantly spoke sickness on themselves, constantly. Oh, I think I have this ailment. I think I have that ailment. Or I have this. I've got to go to this physician and that physician. And it just spiraled into initially being told, well, no, you don't. You don't have this condition. I'm glad you came in to see me and paid me $150, whoever these physicians were, to this person winding up with a serious health condition and succumbing early to it. And I can remember watching this and and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I was reading a Bible every day, all day in my 20s, or, I was sitting talking to God all day, and every day about, what is written. But I thought, that wasn't good what
Right.
she was doing. And I'm watching what was transpiring. And I took note of that early on to be as positive as I can about any and every situation. I mean, if it's bad, it's bad, but let's turn that into what we can do to make it through it. Even if the situation is bad, I can take that situation and turn it into, well, let's look at the good in it. Let's take the good in it so that we can get through it and get to the other side of the situation.
And that's that
Remember
learner.
that power.
Yeah, that's that learner's mentality of
Mhm.
what can I learn from this and move forward.
Exactly.
And
Instead of wallowing in it and
right.
sitting in it and sitting in, because it's like you're sitting in death, or you're waiting on death to come upon whatever that situation is
Right. Yeah.
that you're in.
Her name is Zondra Willenberly. We're just getting started here. The book is called From Boss to Boss. It's never too late to reclaim your dreams and live in purpose. You're listening to her here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, the elite team at Epic Physical Therapy, and whether you're recovering from injury, surgery, suffering everyday aches and pains, maybe you're a professional athlete. Listen, they work with them all. Listen, here's the deal. They're going to customize a treatment program that's specifically designed for you. So when you're ready for your epic relief, your epic recovery, your epic results, don't look any further. Go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft Team Realtors. For more than 38 years, they've been helping people transition in life. You say, whoa, wait a minute. I thought they do real estate. What do you mean life transition? Well, think about it. Every place you've ever lived has been a transition in your life. They've helped thousands of people. They can help you in taking the stress, reducing the stress in that transition, helping you make that transition much easier, because that's what happens when you're selling or buying a home. They would love to help you. So listen, when you're ready to make your life transition, the next one, upsize, downsize, whatever, go to Linda Craft and go to Linda Craft Team Realtors. That's lindacraft.com. It's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with Zondra Wimberly. Her book, From Boss to Boss, it's outstanding. We just got started in there, and as she told her story, I think it's time that we get into a few other little pieces of the book that you talk about. One of the things you say is this, because and this is in chapter 3, no regrets, the new beginning is possible now. And here's what you say. Tough times happen to everyone. Everyone has moments of fear, insecurity, lack of understanding, and other issues. The first step is to take a step. Do not remain stagnant. Make your move forward, even if you feel afraid or uncertain. As you take small steps, your confidence in faith will increase. So help us understand, when we want to make this career transition, help us put that into perspective of taking that first step. What might that look like? And what did it look like for you?
So I would say, well, first of all, for me, my first step was to figure out what the thing is that I really wanted to do that was going to give me that joy, that happiness, and so that I wouldn't be salty every Sunday. If I had to do some introspective reflection and really go back to my childhood, which is where I found myself at 10 years old and realized, oh my gosh, I'm trying to figure out, I'm bouncing here and I'm bouncing there. Well, the thing that I love is still there because I still sit and watch documentaries. I still love teaching and training and telling stories. I still enjoy doing that and writing. I've written more than just this book. This is just the one that I published.
Right.
And so that first step for me was to go back and do some reflecting. For others, it can be very frightening.
Mm-hmm.
If you have done something, perhaps the same thing for 20 years or 25 years, you didn't like it, and now somebody says, well, you're not happy, why don't you change it? Mm-hmm. And, that can be very frightening. So the first step I always suggest is a small one that you can be comfortable with. And that can just be figuring out, first of all, what that thing is, like I did, and then just doing some research, just going on the internet. We go on there every day, all day anyway, and do a little research on that industry or that thing that you want to do. Just do a little search and see what pops up and do some reading. My favorite places are libraries and bookstores. I just love, love, love them. You may pick up a periodical. If you always wanted to be a photographer, there's all kinds of magazines on the shelf at the few bookstores that we have, or you can go on Amazon or wherever and, and grab a magazine and just read or research somebody else who's done that and is doing that and read their life story. It can be so inspirational to you to help you to want to take another step. So that's just a tiny step, very comfortable, doesn't require a whole lot of capital invest in that you can do that will get you going and things that will inspire you to continue to move forward.
Now you offer here 5 steps that you use to move on, and they're psychological, emotional steps that people can take. So I'm going to walk you through each one, and then I'm just going to have you expand on it. Okay.
Sure.
So the first step that you have is acknowledgement. And so talk about why acknowledgement in terms of remembering what intrigues you, acknowledging what stops you. Talk about acknowledgement, why that's a really important first step psychologically and emotionally.
Well, because the key to deliverance from anything is acknowledging that you need deliverance from the thing or acknowledging that you have. Right? Well, you're not going anywhere if you say that I don't have a problem. Okay. So that's why acknowledgement is the first thing. I've got high emotional intelligence. Okay. I realize I'm salty every Sunday. So I have to acknowledge that. Okay.
Right.
So, really you do. I mean, we can laugh about it, but honestly, you just have to say, listen, I'm here. It doesn't feel comfortable. I don't like it. And so now what am I going to do about it? Because this is it's not good for me.
All right. So then the second step you have after acknowledgement is acceptance. Talk about that.
So then that's step 2. And then to say, maybe I missed something. Something happened. I missed it. I could have gone this way. There were times, and I will tell you in my life and even in my college career that I could have undone that damage. Okay.
Sure,
because I studied communications. I could have actually studied broadcast communications, but that thing that was tucked away came back. And I said, you know what? No, I think I'll go this route. So I had to acknowledge and to accept that I had a part to play in that as well, because I didn't have to, once I became an adult, keep that mindset, right?
Right. No, right. One of the things you say in this section, you say, I had to accept the past and give myself permission to change my future.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. I love how you wrote that. It's gorgeous. All right. The third step. So we have acknowledgement, acceptance, and then, and this one's hard. Forgive.
There it is. You just can't stay stuck there. I will tell you, and I am harder on myself than anyone else because I believe in accepting responsibility for my actions
Mm.
and being very clear on where I am. I'm just not one of these people to say, "Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. If I did it, I did it." But let's move on from it.
Right.
So yes, I made a mistake or a misstep where I did something wrong or I didn't get it right. So let me, take my moments to say, I messed up or I screwed up,
Right.
but forgive myself because I literally sat there. I mean, we're talking about decades later, and I'm like, my God, I don't remember. I think I wrote about this or I've told so many stories, but I'd sit there and watch, all these women in the industry and I critique them. I mean, I could sit right today and say, "Oh, she should have done this," or "Look at that, that doesn't look good on the air. She should have worn this color," or "Why didn't she ask that question?"
Right.
Maybe the women, because I'm a woman, and so I had to forgive myself, and not just stay and wallow in, okay, I missed it, and then be angry at others who
Right.
did get it right. So I didn't want that to happen. So I had to forgive myself and forgive the man who said that to me. I had
Right.
to make sure that
Right.
toxicity was not festering inside of me and blaming him for that. So
Right.
I had to let that go. I really had to go through a process of forgiving myself and making sure that I knew that I had forgiven him, and I have.
Right. Okay, so we've got acknowledgement, we got acceptance, forgive, and then the fourth one is release it. That can be a harder one than I think that we want to acknowledge, but talk about releasing it. You talk about,
That that can be harder because sometimes I want to revisit it.
mm,
So once you have forgiven, you don't just keep going back and going back because you're holding on to it.
that's good.
You let it go. It
Yeah.
happened. It's done. It's over. So if you're following these steps, then you got to let it go. And not every time something happens or you're in something happens on the job, you want to go back and talk about what you shoulda, woulda, coulda, and who wronged you.
Right.
It's not acknowledging what has happened. So you got to go back and start all over again
Right. Right.
because you're revisiting it over and over again. And many times it's because it's so hard. Life is tough and things happen. And many times people just have a very difficult time accepting the fact that things happen to them and they may have had something to do with it. They want to blame everybody else. And sometimes it is somebody's fault. I mean, people have had just horrible childhoods. I can't say I had a horrible childhood, and things have happened and they're in a situation, but you've got to let it go and move on. So that release is not revisiting it over and over again.
And you have some practical advice in here too. You said that I wrote all my feelings in a journal. I released them. And I love this statement. These things were in the past, and that is where they will always be.
In the past. And some people I have advised, whatever way that will help you, but to write them. And for some people, I advise to tear it up. Some people, throw it in your fireplace, tear it up and flush it down your toilet if your septic system can handle it. Whatever kind of visual, if you're a visual person,
Yep.
that can work for you to just, this is what hurt me. These were the mistakes and it's over and now it's gone.
Okay, so we have acknowledge it, accept it, forgive it, release it, and then the final one, plan forward.
Move forward. Start planning to get out of that situation.
Mm.
Plan to keep going on with your life so that you don't have to continue to revisit it, so that you don't have to stay stuck in an unforgiven state,
Mm.
unforgiving and unforgiven, you haven't forgiven yourself. That's
Right.
what I mean by that. So start planning. That gives you something to look forward to. That gives hope
Yeah.
to look forward to be able to get out of it. I mean, if you've gone through a situation like this and you feel like you've been stuck, I mean, literally for years and decades or however long it is, then what you want is some hope that, well, what do I do now? Well, you start planning. You
Right.
start researching, you start journaling, you start writing down what you can do, how you can make that change, how you can turn that corner, because you can. It's not too late. If you're still on this side, it's not too late.
These 5 were beautiful, but then you follow it up with steps to help you discover your purpose. And it's kind of this 4 simple steps. The first one is create a vision board. And I think this is so practical. And so talk about discovering your purpose. Talk about you creating your vision board, what that might look like for someone as a first step in discovering your purpose.
So I am visual. I really like visuals. They just help me. I like colors. I like images. I like videos, all of those things. And so having a vision board, whether you use a poster board that you can get from a Dollar Tree, or whether or not you do the digital forms, because they have them now on these
They do.
platforms. You can do them digitally for the techie people. But a vision board allowed me, first of all, you take time with yourself to create it, right? Because you can't
Right.
do it in 2 or 3 minutes. So you've really got to take the time to sit and comb through magazines or newspapers or books or whatever it is, even if it's an internet search for different images and imagery that will take you to that place that you want to be. And so that's exactly what I did. And I divided it up into areas of my health, because I tend to exercise. I'm exercise, and I desire to be a healthy eater. I do fall off the wagon, and I tell people,
We all do. You're not alone. It's okay.
listen, Coach Jay, I have never met a Reese's peanut butter cup that I didn't like. So I keep them away from me, because I just have never met one that I did like, either they're the small ones or the large ones, or
Oh, it's beautiful.
so
Uh,
I have to control that.
uh,
So, but on the board is, a picture of a woman who's, exercising, because that's very important to me, and how I eat and take care of my physical self.
right.
And then words that, because they matter.
Yes,
I
they do.
talk about that, words and imagery. So I have words like dream and powerful. I had mogul, just all these words that I was able to pull out that would be inspiring to me, along with, again, images.
I
So
love
the
that.
physical, and then the business that I wanted to have, and then some other things that I put on there as well. And then I put those together. And then I put my personal mantra at the bottom, which was tell the story. That's my personal mantra, because I'm a storyteller, to
Yeah.
remind myself. And then I put it up, in my room, so I could see it every day to remind myself.
Yes. I think that's such a beautiful. We don't talk about those little practical things, but they are so practical, so simple, and yet they work. Right. Sometimes we overcomplicate it. And I thought the beautiful thing about what you did here was you just brought us back to some really good, old-fashioned, heartfelt, see it so you can believe it. I mean, it was beautiful. So I love the vision board. Okay, the second tier you had was, and you did this, you wrote this in the book, use a 12-month planning calendar.
Mhm.
Talk about taking us through a 12-month planning calendar and the importance of doing that.
So I am a planner. I believe in planning. I like to write things down. Again, as I said, I'm visual. And I always like to reflect on my life and where I'm going around my birthday. That's like my time. It's like my new year. And
Yeah,
so planning things out month by month, that time of year, and then the end of our calendar year is another time when I plan, and just writing out what I wanted to do, how I plan to move forward. So when I made the decision that I was going to write the book, when I made the decision that I was going to launch a training and a coaching program to help others, I just wrote out everything that I wanted to do. And then I broke them down month by month so that it wouldn't be overwhelming. Because, I mean, just even to say that I'm going to write a book can be overwhelming to many people. It's like, oh, okay. I knew that this book actually lived in me. I had to tell this story. I just had to tell it, because I said somebody else in this world needs to hear this, and I need to get it out of me. It just was like something that lived. And so even in that, I had to plan, the time that I was going to take to outline it, the title of it, what each chapter would be about, how much of my story I would tell, how I would put it all together, who would help me, all of that. So just planning month by month. And I like to do it in cycles like that, so that at the end, I can check them off. And at the end of the year, when it's time for me to do it again, I can go back and say, wow, I made some great accomplishments in just 12 months.
That's beautiful. Her name is Zondra Wimberly, and the book is From Boss to Boss. By the way, there's 2 more things that she's got in helping discover your purpose. So you do not want to go away from the show. Okay. You want to stay right here. You're listening to her here on A New Direction. Folks, Epic Physical Therapy, my physical therapist, I think they should be yours too, by the way. Listen, they offer the most top of the advanced, top of the line equipment like the Ultra G anti-gravity treadmill, the Normatec compression sleeves, Game Ready, my favorite. That's just a few. And listen, they're trained and certified in the most comprehensive cutting edge treatments, blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping, and that's just a few. Listen, when you're ready for your epic relief, epic recovery, epic results, don't look any further. Go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft Team Realtors. Listen, for more than 38 years, they've been helping people all over the world connect with the best professionals in the area. How can they do that? Well, they're unaffiliated with any national brand or company. They are their own company, so they've created relationships all over the world to help you find the best real estate professional in your area. So when you're ready to make that life transition, whether you're upsizing, buying your first house, or maybe you're downsizing, want to sell your house, start with Linda Craft Team Realtors. It's really easy. They can help you, and they're happy to do it. It's lindacraft.com. It's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend. I'm calling her friend. I'm calling her friend, Zondra Wimberly, from Boss to Boss, and she has been awesome so far, and she's going to continue to be even more awesomer. And I know it's not a word. I don't care. It's my show. I can say whatever I want to say on my show. Okay, so we've gone through create a vision board, use a 12-month planning calendar, and then here's one that we overlook often when we're struggling to find that next career purpose: circle of support. Mm-hmm. Talk us through about the circle of support, the importance of it, and why that's such a critical piece to finding your purpose.
Well, for me, because I'm relational, having relationships and having someone to talk to that you can trust is just so important, because I think if we learn nothing else from the pandemic that we went through, is that to just have another person to be able to talk through when you are feeling uncomfortable, when you are feeling uncertain, when you are feeling fearful, when you have lost your joy and happiness, when all things seem like everything is just coming in on you or caving in on you, to have someone that is going to be a cheerleader or a truth bearer to you about who you really are, what you can do, and that will support you and your dreams. And it's so important, because there's always going to be the naysayers and the ones that will tell you, this is ridiculous. You're how old and you want to do what? You're going to do that good job? Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? You're to this, you're to that. And so those people will always exist. Right. But it's important to seek out that circle of support. And I have a tremendous sister circle of a few very good women friends who can identify with what I have gone through, who know me very well, and who I can call on when I need to just talk through some things. How does this sound? Or if I'm doubtful, because I'm not a perfect person or perfect being, and to just remind me of, wonderful things about me, they will say.
Well, we all need encouragement, right? And we can have accountability in encouragement, so that people can push us and encourage us at the same time.
That's absolutely correct. That encouragement and it can be very inspirational.
Yes.
Because when you launch a new venture, depending on whatever you are doing, it can be very lonely very lonely place.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, I encourage myself often, but sometimes I need to hear from someone else,
Absolutely.
some support. So that it is really helpful as you move forward if you're transitioning a career or making a major change in your life. Mhm.
The fourth piece that you had, and you really do emphasize this a lot in this book, is research your industry. Talk us about that piece of it, because I think sometimes we dream, but we don't do the research. To tell us why that's so important.
It's so very important because, and so I've owned several businesses, and times change, technology changes, uh, things change within every industry. And I talk about this company that I started. I'm very proud to have started a baby food company way back in the early 2000s. And so I had to get in there and research and understand that industry, understand the science behind the food. I had to understand the laws that dictated the baby food industry, which is somewhat different than regular food. I had to understand um, purchasing shelf space, which if you've ever had a product on a shelf, you'll understand what that means. Things that I just didn't have a clue about, I had to research and understand. Now, if we fast forward, and that was when I launched that, it was 2004. If we fast forward to 2023, and I were to just go back and say, I'm going to start this again and I'm going to go out and do something, well, things have changed tremendously from then to now. So you always have to research and constantly stay abreast of whatever it is that you want to do. Technology has changed. Everything has changed.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to, let's say you want to be a photographer. Well, I took photography in college, Coach Jay, and I was in a dark room with film and developer. I still remember that
That
because
smell. Oh, that awful smell.
that smell. Because, so I'm an amateur photographer, but I loved it. It went along with some things that I remember. I told you I love images, but it's very different today. I
Right.
mean, that's not necessarily what I would want to learn if I wanted to become a photographer now. So you've got to do your research, and it can be very an inexpensive step that you can take, and a wise one because it can save you money from making a mistake.
That's beautiful. I want to move on
Mhm.
in chapter 5, and you have a subtitle here called Passion versus Purpose. And there's a lot of people who want to talk about follow your passion, follow your passion. And I chuckled. I have to be honest with you. I chuckled when I read this because you said, I'm passionate about baking. But that's not necessarily my purpose. So help us understand, because just because you might be passionate about it, that may not have anything to do with your purpose. Help us walk through that a little bit.
So it's funny. I say that because I do enjoy it. I do enjoy baking, but I enjoy it seasonally. It's and my family laughs because right around Thanksgiving, or when the weather, let's just say the fall of the year,
Right.
I call it my baking spirit. It just comes upon me. I'm reminiscent of my mother when she would start baking because it's the fall. I'm here in Detroit. It's the Midwest. It's cold.
Right.
And so I start baking desserts. I'm making pound cakes. I'm baking pies, and my family benefits from this because I'm making desserts more often. And I
Right.
do enjoy it, but that is not something that I would want to do to earn a living every week. It's something that I like to do around certain times of the year when I feel like doing it. So that's what I mean by I'm passionate about it. I only like top quality desserts. I can't eat, like the stuff that you might find on a big box store shelf. I'm not going to eat it because I like the home baked stuff with the
Right.
real butter and all of that. So I've got a passion for it and a taste for it, but it's not something that I would want to do to earn a living. Absolutely not.
And it doesn't, passions don't necessarily fulfill your purpose. They may make you feel good for a moment, right?
Right.
But a purpose is something, and I try to explain to my clients the same way that you do, I believe, is that we try to explain to them, this is something that you just naturally do, and you do it and you want to do it. You would do it for free.
That's the key. You would do it for free. I will tell you when I am out, um, coaching and helping others and sharing my stories of what I have gone through, I don't say, oh, that'll be $150 because I've talked to you. If somebody asks a question and I can
Right.
help them, I'm going to help them
Right.
because because it's my purpose. And I've
Yeah.
got to share with them if there's something, and some people don't. They can't afford to pay. And I've helped plenty of people. They're like, I can't afford to pay, but I'm stuck. Coach Z, what do I do? And I will give them tips and tell them this is what you can do. And yes, you can do it. And I'm going to encourage them.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can do it.
Yeah, I agree with you because I know that there are plenty of times where I've done pro bono coaching,
Mhm,
right? Because I am not, I have said I do not want money to be an inhibitor to helping people,
mhm. And it's
right?
the right thing to do. You just
Right.
feel in your gut that it's the right thing to do to help this
Yeah.
person. We're not talking about someone who's trying to take advantage of you,
Right. Right.
but someone who just genuinely needs help.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
All right. So yeah, it's beautiful. That's beautiful. I had to do the passion versus purpose thing because when I read the thing about I love to bake, I'm passionate about baking, but it's seasonal, by the way. I don't want to do this forever. It's not a purpose.
Right.
Although for
Right.
some people, you know what, you may find purpose in baking because you feel like you're bringing, joy and life into people. So for some people, baking could be a purpose. I mean, it could very
Oh,
well be a
it absolutely is. It is.
right.
And I know some people who do that and they absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But for me to just, provide for the family and that's my sole thing, I couldn't do it. Now, to help out, sure, but it's not the purpose that
Yeah.
God
That's
gave.
purpose.
Yeah.
All right. Chapter 7. And by the way, how clever of you. Chapter 7, 7 steps to leaving your job without losing your mind. Okay. Which I thought was awesome that you did that there. So let's go through these.
Okay.
First one is save. And you say pay off as many debts as possible. Talk about why that's important when you're without losing your mind.
So what I find with my clients who want to transition, the first thing they worry about is the money. And so they will worry themselves to death and just, I can't do this. I can't afford to do this. It's always about the money because remember, I walked you into this, 20, 30, 40 years ago, you got the job to make the money so that you could live a certain life. So it wasn't about what am I going to do for my purpose or what's going to make me happy. It's about where I can get the most money to help take care of this family and live the American dream, right?
Right.
So the first thing you would need to do is to make sure your finances are in order and to start saving, cutting out the Starbucks, cutting out, I mean, if you've got 7 streaming platforms coming in, maybe you can cut them down to 2 and save that money and take your lunch instead of eating out. So
Right.
saving and taking a look at your financial situation so that you can have that peace. Because if hey, I've got enough saved up, I can actually transition. And you may need to, it may even involve retiring from one position and going to another one. So that's why that's so important. It's
All
the
right.
first.
Next one, take advantage. You talk about training.
Oh, absolutely. So if you are going to become, let's say and I keep using this photography situation, but whatever it is that you're going to do, if you're currently in a professional position or whatever you're in, then you look there and see what kind of opportunities that they're offering. There are many jobs that offer professional development, and all you have to do is sign up for them and get your supervisor to approve it. Take advantage of it. Or if you're going to a conference, take a look at what they're offering at that conference, and it may be something that will personally benefit you. Sign up for that session. Grab a business card from somebody who's doing it. But absolutely.
Network is the
Network,
third.
network, network. It's one of the most important things that we can do. And as one of my husband's friends says, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. So getting out there and starting to tell people this is what you want to do and and like I said, grabbing business cards, or nowadays it's a QR code, I think. You just snap a picture of something, but making yourself known and meeting people in that industry or where you want to go.
All right. Potential coach.
Potential coach. So obtaining somebody who can assist you in what you're trying to do. So if you can find a coach that can help you, that's very, very beneficial. A coach, a mentor, or somebody that can work with you to help you in that area that you're going into.
And then, so you have potential coach, mentor, and then you have accountability partner and advisory board.
So the accountability partner is that person that usually is in your circle that is going to call you when you're not doing what you said you're going to do. And so I have a wonderful accountability partner, and we meet on Wednesdays. And I know, my gosh, when I've got to talk to her, what I said I was going to do last week had better be done, and it better have been a life or death situation. And she's awesome. She's a friend, but she's not afraid to say, you didn't do this, and why didn't you do it? Why? There's no reason why you shouldn't have had this done. And we're still going to be friends, but the accountability partner is important.
And then the advisory board.
And an advisory board is something that I recommend. And it's similar to what I call my sister circle, but it's really putting people in place. And I have two that I can call and have a meeting and say, this is the direction that I want to take the company in. I want to branch off into this type of training. And then they're going to give me advice and say, well, you've mastered this, but you didn't get this part done. So I think you should do this before you do that. So they're going to give me their professional advice and expertise before I go off and do something differently.
Do you know we've done an hour?
It just flew by. It was awesome. It was just like a conversation talking to a friend, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed having you on. Tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Well, my name is Zondra Wimberly. You can go to my website, which is zondrawimberly.com. I am at Instagram, which is my name. I am Zondra W, or my company, which is Dream Z Enterprises. You can follow me there. My book is available on Amazon, From Boss to Boss. Pick up a copy, but all avenues you can reach me through my website.
Yeah, and I even connected with her on LinkedIn, and so
that's right. Got LinkedIn,
and we even follow each other on Instagram too, by the way. So I'm just
absolutely. So I'm out there.
I'm just saying I feel a little special, so I do feel that. Stay with me. Stay with me, Zondra. Folks, it's the show. You know what I say to you every week, and you know what that is, right? You are in control of three things in your life at all times, regardless of your circumstances: your attitude, your effort, and getting back up again. I know that things can be tough. I know that things can be hard, but you still have a choice in your attitude every day. You have a choice of how excellent you're going to be every day. That's your effort. And you know what? We all get knocked down, but it's up to you to get back up again. Do that, because that's in your control. I'm going to be back next week with another great guest. This could be another great book. It's going to be another outstanding show. And as I say to you every week, you know what? You had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you. Give us a positive review, as I say to you all over the world. And that is ciao, everybody.